Oh, I'm so happy to have you all and to see you all. And alrighty. Welcome, welcome. This is Recovery Dharma, friends. My name is Julia. I'm one of the facilitators in the Spokane Sangha. And for anyone joining us for the first time, or if it's been a minute since you've been with us, for the last 2 months, we have been exploring the theme of forgiveness in our community. We've actually been taking 8 weeks to study this very nuanced, profound concept of forgiveness. Today is the last day. And so, what I'd like to do, in keeping with tradition of a lot of the Fridays, is I'd like to share with you a story. This is a Buddhist story. It's a little bit like a parable, and it really, I think, embodies the spirit of forgiveness, the expanse of forgiveness, and the invitation for contemplation, to take ourselves into a quiet space to reflect on the conditions that are unfolding that require forgiveness, require understanding, and maybe even test our motivation and intention. This is a story that I brought forward. Actually, it's so interesting. I brought it forward on April 9th, 2021. And it's a story that I've rewritten and reimagined. Its title is Teaching a Thief. Long, long ago, there lived a famous Buddhist teacher. Students from all over the place came to study with her for months at a time. The training was intense, with hard manual labor to maintain the property around them, hours and hours of sitting meditation, little sleep, and tiny, tiny morning and afternoon meals with no snacking in between. One time, a young student was really struggling. All he could think about was how hungry he was. He listened to his growling stomach while tending to the trees, not hearing the birds at all. A few hours of sleep he had was made worse by his stomach cramping and his discomfort over anticipating the morning meal. But while he ate, he thought about how he was still hungry. During meditation, it was the same. His mind wandered to all the foods he was missing, and all his emotions were stirred. Finally, he couldn't take it any more. One night, he snuck out of his room into the kitchen and took some food. The head cook, sleeping lightly just off the main kitchen room, always alert for intruders, animal or human, heard everything and caught the young student. The next morning, the student was brought before the teacher. Rumors had already started to spread, and most expressed hope that the thief would be forced to leave. However, to everyone's dismay, the teacher asked the cook and a few others for information about the thief, and then acted as if nothing happened. A few days later, the same student was caught stealing food from the kitchen again. The entire student body was even angrier this time and demanded that something be done. In fact, in the middle of the night, after their classmate was caught, several students drafted a petition and had everyone sign it, saying they would all leave the next day if the thief was not expelled. The teacher read the petition with care. She went outside and wandered her private garden thoughtfully and peacefully for a short time. When she re-entered the main courtyard, she invited all her students, including the thief, as well as all the monks and nuns who lived and taught there alongside her. She asked that everyone gather in the meditation hall. She entered last to a very still, quiet space. She said, I've read your petition, and I have listened and felt deeply the depth of your complaints. I recognize that many of you have traveled far and at great cost to be here. I see your hard work and perseverance. I acknowledge all your devotion and dedication to the practice. Every effort you've made, I praise. You are excellent students and clearly know the difference between right and wrong. So as you desire, you may leave this monastery with my blessing and find another teacher, because the thief will remain, even if he is to be my only student. The congregation of students were stunned. The monks and nuns, however, smiled. A whirring of discontent spread throughout the room. The students couldn't believe it. How could their teacher not be upset about the prospect of them all leaving at once? They hadn't done one thing wrong and yet felt totally slighted by her decision. She was going to allow the thief to stay? It was too much. The thief, sensing all the disharmony, anger, and frustration, hung his head in disgrace. The teacher stood before the gathering with her hands to her heart and said, "Friends, you can see that this thief does not know the difference between right and wrong like you do. If this student leaves now, how will he learn these things? No, my friends, he must stay so he can understand." When the thief heard these words, he was profoundly moved. With tears in his eyes, shame in his heart and mind, he felt the compassion of his teacher. He knew he would not steal again. The teacher allowed a moment for her words to sink in. She bowed slightly and left the meditation hall with the other monks and nuns following behind. So all the students would have the space and privacy to make their own decisions. The thief immediately took his spot on his cushion, found a noble position, closed his eyes, and began to breathe deeply. Many of the other students stood up ready to leave. They were confused by their teacher's speech and quietly discussed it among themselves just outside. The great meditation hall was empty, except for this one thieving student. The teacher returned an hour later. Just before entering the meditation hall, she noticed how still and quiet everything was. She assumed that all but one of her students had left like they said they would. She smiled, opened the door, and to her astonishment, every one of her students were sitting composed and quiet. The teacher smiled broadly and sat among them. Friends, we end this extraordinary practice time of forgiveness with a beautiful story illustrating its depth, its richness, its limitlessness in quality, compassion, loving kindness, equanimity, and even joy. Forgiveness gives us these precious opportunities to explore regret in contemplative ways, in deeply personal and private ways. It invites us to explore our belief systems, our thoughts and stories that have shaped our beliefs and convictions around justice, vengeance, fairness. Forgiveness invites us to look at the dualistic thinking of right and wrong, expanding those ideas to include the greater area of gray, things that are less clear, less certain, and to find the treasure buried there. So much of what dictates our impulsivity and unskillful action that lead to regret is something Buddhists call ignorance, and they're so often they just shrug their shoulders, It's just ignorance, just human ignorance. We're here to wake up from ignorance, from our delusions. Own the mind, open the heart, change the story. We achieve this understanding by affording ourselves time to reflect, moments of mindfulness to consider contemplation, participating in community so that we can be present to and listen to the wisdom and inspiration of others. This is what brings us to a broader, more expansive understanding of forgiveness as it lives and comes alive in us. Above all things, friends, forgiveness is a practice. May your practice of forgiveness be filled with blessing, the blessing of presence, the blessing of gentleness, the blessing of curiosity and creativity, the blessing of ease. May all of that be wrapped in the four limitless qualities of loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. And may you know it is all conspiring for your healing, transformation, and well-being. We are not here to pursue perfection. We are here practicing to practice. Let's end our practice together by just taking 3 intentional breaths. And then when you're ready, come back to this space and we'll open it up for community sharing. With that, friends, let's go ahead and end our practice with a dedication of merit. We'll end our practice today with a prayer of forgiveness. Simple mantras that we can repeat and put out into the world. To all the people everywhere who have harmed me through ignorance, through lack of awareness, through unskillfulness, because of their ignorance, their lack of practice, and so on. May they receive forgiveness. May I forgive them and release them, inviting them into the spaciousness of wisdom, compassion, and care. For all the ways that I have harmed other people through my own ignorance, delusion, unskillfulness, lack of practice, may I too be invited into wisdom and compassion to continue to grow and learn. May I forgive myself. For all the ways that I am not ready to forgive, for all the reasons I'm not ready to forgive, may I forgive myself. For anyone out there seeking forgiveness, longing for it, grasping for it, using it as a source of self-inflicted injury, disappointment, and so on, may you find the source of that forgiveness, that external forgiveness within, and may you forgive yourself, bringing peace and ease. For all the places within us, friends, that feel unforgiven, may you be released, forgiven, entering into the limitless space, the infinite space of true love and divine acceptance. Thank you for your beautiful practice, friends. We'll see you next time. Namaste.